Hi everybody, Elin here. Today I thought I would do another try a chapter tag. I have done this like 2 times before, I think, but this time I am choosing 3 books that I really look forward to reading, but I don't really know what kind of reading mood I am in right now, meaning a little bit slumpish. So yeah, I'm gonna read 1 chapter from each of these 3 books, and then I'm going to try to decide which one I want to read. And I feel like my goal for this is the book that I choose, I will just have it sort of as on my March TBR, meaning I'll finish it during the month of March, because otherwise it would be too much pressure. But yeah, I'm gonna tell you guys what the books are right now. Okay, so we have Founderside by Robert Jackson Bennett. So I don't really remember what this one is about. Okay, we meet this girl named Sankyao, and she is a thief. She's supposed to steal an artifact of unimaginable power, an object that could revolutionize the magical technology known as scribing. And Sansia, however you pronounce it, she actually have this sort of power where she can touch something, and then she can sort of know where this object has been and stuff like that. But yeah, she's trying to steal something, and it may or may not change the world. So this is the first book I will be trying. Crown of Feathers by Nikki Pau Preto, and as you can see, this is about phoenixes. So back in the day, they used to be like queens, and they were phoenix riders, and they protected the land and everything like that. But then there was sort of a war, and they fought against each other, and they were sort of phoenixes were sort of extinct, and the riders died as well. So we follow these 2 sisters named Val and Veronica, and they have this power, so they can talk and communicate with animals, which also the phoenix riders used to have that ability as well. But they're also sort of special, these 2 sisters, because they can also sort of transmit their thoughts into like the air, and then they can hear each other's thoughts, kind of, and that's apparently very unusual. But they want to be phoenix riders more than anything ever, and they found these 2 phoenix eggs, and they want them to hatch so that they can continue with their dreams of being phoenix riders. So this one sounds really interesting, actually. And then the last book is A Crown for Cold Silver by Alex Marshall. This is the first book in Crimson Empire. This is supposed to be 20 years ago, Fey General Cobalt Sosia led her mercenary army and 5 villainous captains into battle, wrestling monsters and toppling an empire. Where there were no more titles to win and no more worlds to conquer, she faked her death and gave up her legend to history. Now, the peace she carved for herself has been shattered by the unvoked slaughter of her village. Seeking bloody vengeance, Sosia heads for battle once more, but to find justice, she must confront grudge-bearing enemies, once loyal allies, and an unknown army that marches under a familiar ban. So I really started to get into this sort of adult fantasy, sort of war-related books, I suppose. So we'll see what I think about this one. So these are the 3 books I will be reading, so we'll see what I think about them, because now I'm going to go read the first chapter. Just ended up finishing reading those chapters, so my thought is that I will a little bit shortly tell you guys what I thought about each each of the books and their chapters, and then I'll make my decision. So I actually started reading Founderside, and the entire reason why I bought this was because Regan from Peruse Project was speaking so highly of it, and it was one of her favorite reads from last year. And I mean, we meet this guy named Sansia, and when you start the chapter, it kind of kicks off immediately, because we get to follow her trying to sort of place this, I don't really know what it was, she tries to place something underneath the cart, because she wants to know where the cart is headed, and where the cart is headed, there's supposed to be the thing that she wants to steal is supposed to be at this place. So she tries to find the right card, she has to get through, has to go past some guards, and she meets a lot of freaking rats and stuff, and she managed to put this tracking thing, I guess it is, underneath the cart, and then she's just, you know, going home for the day. And that's pretty much all that happened. I mean, it was like 10 pages to read, so it wasn't that much to go off on. But I mean, I feel like the premise is interesting, and I do like the writing style. So I feel like it definitely has potential. But like I said, it was only 10 pages to go off on, so I don't really feel like a lot happened. So it's a little bit hard to tell what I really think about it. And then the second book I ended up reading was Crown of Feathers by Nikki Powell Preto, and I just love this cover. But I mean, we get to meet the sisters, and we get to follow Veronica, and she tries to collect bones for this fire, and we get to learn a little bit more about her sister also, Val, and we get to know that they can communicate with animals, and that they have different kind of views on that power, and also that they are shadow mages, is that what they call it? I don't know. Something like that, and meaning that they can communicate with each other through their thoughts, really, which is apparently really unusual, especially since it's not something you inherit, so it's unusual for two sisters to have it. And then they have found these phoenix eggs a while ago, I think, a few days ago, I don't know. They're trying to get it to hatch, and when the chapter ends, one of the eggs is actually starting to, you know, move around a little bit, so maybe the hatching is supposed to, you know, happen. So I mean, we do get a little bit, you get to know the characters a little bit. We get like the, you know, the premise of the book is phoenix riders, so I feel like it's starting at a good place if they manage to hatch the eggs. And then we also get a little bit of history about like the first phoenix rider there was and stuff like that, and I don't know, I'm intrigued by this one, I really have to admit. And the third one was A Crown for Cold Silver by Alex Marshall. This one had a little bit of a longer chapter, because the first two was like 10-11 pages, and this one was 15, and it's a little bit slower, a little bit thicker. So I mean, I was expecting that, but from what I read here, they're just sort of trying to take command of this cabbage. It's not a vegetable. From what I read so far from this one, they're trying to take sort of command over this cottage where this mayor and his wife lives, and so they do this really long hike up to the cottage. They meet the mayor's wife, they're talking to her, and then someone may have been beheaded previously that, and I don't know, definitely not hooked yet. I mean, I like the premise of it, so it sounds interesting, but just that first chapter, I was a little bit bored. I had a little bit problem to like concentrate on what I was reading, but I heard Piera Forde talk really goodly. I heard her talk really well about this series. I think it's supposed to be 3 books or something like that. So I mean, I'm still intrigued. I just don't think that this will be my, you know, choice for this time. In that case, we're down to these two, and I mean, they're both very interesting premises and everything, and I feel like both had chapters that really like caught my attention, and I want to find out what's going to, you know, delve into. But I think actually my choice is gonna fall on Crown of Feathers, because I didn't want to I didn't want to end at just one chapter. I wanted to continue reading it and find out what was going to happen. And yes, I do really want to read this one as well, so who knows, maybe I'll end up reading it in March as well. But at the same time, I don't really have a lot to go off on, and it was a little bit confusing, I guess, not having read it that much, because not a lot has been explained yet. So I'm hoping they will do more of that, you know, in the next few chapters. But this one explained a little bit better, and I was definitely hooked by the premise of it, and I just want to know what happens to those eggs. I mean, we probably know what's gonna happen, but you know what I mean. So therefore I think my choice is going to be Crown of Feathers. Haven't heard that much about it. I know a lot of people have hauled it on YouTube mainly, but I haven't heard anyone actually saying anything about their opinions of it yet. So I don't know. I really hope that it lives up to my expectations. But like I said, this will be one of the books I will be reading in March. I have my March TBR up as well. You can watch that, but I'm gonna try to finish this one in March as well, because now I'm really intrigued. It sounds really good actually. So yeah, if you have read any of the 3 books I talked about today, please let me know down in the comments what you thought about them, without spoiling of course. And you know, based off of the premises I read of the books, which one would you have chosen? Not having read the first chapter obviously, but just from the premises alone, which book would you have chosen to read? And yeah, if you like this video, please don't forget to give me some thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel by clicking the little button down below. And yeah, I hope we see each other in the next one. Bye!